Rachel.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Good.
So to start, I'll say I was not expecting to like Peacemaker that much. Wasn't really like, I was like, oh, okay, that's not the
Yeah,
character I would have done a show on. But
sure.
I'm obsessed with it.
Sure.
And so I wanted to know what I know that James Gunn did this in quarantine and came
hmm
up with it, but what was your involvement in bringing your character from the Suicide Squad into the series?
I mean, my involvement basically was just showing up and, you know, we we finished shooting the Suicide Squad in February of 2020, literally just a couple weeks before the pandemic lockdown happened. And I had been dealing with some personal stuff rather than finding a place to live when I came back from Panama and shooting Suicide Squad. So when lockdown started, I had to just go stay at a friend's cabin out in Joshua Tree out in the desert. And I was there for most of the year. Um, so it was like pretty dark. I was really bummed out and sad. And then James had written this thing just because he had free time. You know, I had all this free time. I didn't write anything. I just, wandered around the desert. And he called me in October of 2020 and said, "Hey, we're doing a spinoff." Um, and I mean, and he's like, and we're shooting it in like 3 months. And I was like, "Oh my God, like, he's like, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want to let you down if it didn't happen." So he waited until it was all okayed and we were ready to shoot to tell me. Um, and all I knew going into it was that we were doing 8 episodes, and you know, he was finally getting to give, some more depth and some more arc to my character, Cena's character, which really needed to happen. After Suicide Squad, there was, he starts off as a jerk and the movie ends with him still a jerk. Like there's no arc for him. So that needed to happen. But, in giving us 8 episodes, there's room for all of us to grow. So my involvement beyond, just showing up was just, saying the lines that James is such a great writer. And that's also part of the luxury of doing a project with a director who wrote the source material. Is he's, by the time we start shooting, he's written all the drafts, he's storyboarded it. So shooting is just a dream because there's no figuring it out on set. It's already been figured out. So shooting is just like the fun part.
Yeah, and I like what you said because for me, like I love the Suicide Squad. I like DC a lot, but I think
Mhm.
watching that movie, once I saw what happened to Rick Flag with Peacemaker, I was like, I don't care. And
No.
then I started watching the show, and every episode, I'm like, I care more and more about this character.
Yeah,
Like, it's
that's
like
the idea.
it's so weird because you're like, "God, I like him now.
Yeah.
But I do like with your character, I like the episode where we learn a lot of his backstory, where he like kills a gorilla, and then in this last episode, still is being like, remember when I killed that gorilla?
Yeah, it's
And
the
I
highlight of his career, I think. Like John Economist is like, he's the guy at the computer. And you can see in an earlier episode when Adebayo comes walking in and she's super amped up because they got shot at. And she's like, "Oh my God, they shot at us. Have you ever been shot at?" And it cuts to Economist really bummed out going, "No." Like you can tell he wants the adventure, he wants to be a hero, but that's too far outside of his comfort zone. So like he's really going to hold on. He holds on to the fact that he killed the gorilla with a chainsaw, and that he beat down Judo Master after Judo Master kicked Peacemaker's ass.
Yeah, well, that, and then I really liked that it's all kind of a redemption for his excuse my French, but for his fuck up when he like was like, oh, I have to think fast, and so he threw his dad in jail. And so
Yeah.
then everyone was like, why would you pick him?
Yeah.
uh and so I really like that he's getting this redemption. But
Yeah,
I
me
know
too.
everyone's asked you about this, but I have to ask from like you as a person. I know the dye beard was a joke because you didn't like having to dye
Right.
your beard. Are you now angry that that is going to be what everyone says to you at conventions, at like meetups? Like they're all going to bring it up. So it's not even just an insult in the show. It is now just tied to you forever.
It's already starting. I had to go to a doctor's appointment 2 days ago, and I'm wearing a mask whenever I'm out, so people don't know it's me, and my beard is covered. I mean, this isn't even much of a beard, but I went into the doctor's office, and I went into the examining room, and I took off my mask, and I was waiting, and my doctor came in, and just the first thing out of her mouth was, "Hey, dye beard." And I was just like, oh my God. And that was when it hit me 2 days ago. I was like, this one's gonna stick. Anytime I comment or post something online, all the comments are like, dye beard, dye beard. So yeah, I don't mind, because I honestly love it, because it means people are watching the show. So, call me dye beard all you want.
Yeah, well, and to deviate a little, I do have to thank both you and Gunn, because I don't know if you can see him, but I have King Shark. I can't point to him, but he's right there,
You mean this guy
behind
right here?
me.
I mean, this dude.
Yeah, it's exactly the one I have.
Yeah,
But
too.
so the thing is, I have an irrational fear of sharks, like did projects on trying to understand it. So me loving him is like a really weird thing for my entire family. They're like, I don't understand why you love this shark.
Yeah.
But it is the way that he is, and I know part of the character is Sylvester Stallone, but I really like in Suicide Squad his mannerisms and how he's basically like this big kid and then can just murder people.
Yeah.
But with a character like that, because I know you played him on set,
Mhm.
is that something you would ever want to revisit as you did with your John in Suicide in
Yeah.
Peacemaker? Would you want to come back as King Shark in something else?
100%. I had such a good time shooting as King Shark. I became very attached to him, and watching the finished project, I became more attached, because I was watching my mannerisms, like every time you see him running and pulling up his shorts, that's me pulling up my short. Like, it's really disturbing to see a giant guy in just a unitard. So they gave me shorts to wear over it.
Were they
And
the
they were,
Madras print? Were they like the
yeah,
plaid?
yeah, and they were a little bit too big. So anytime you see Shark pulling up his pants, that's me, like pulling up my pants, and his weird lumbering run that's me. So I became very attached watching it. I was like, oh my God, it's like watching myself in a costume, like a digital costume. And I know I was just there as motion capture, but that experience, allowed me to be on set and work with like Margot Robbie and Idris Elba and Joel Kinnaman and Peter Capaldi, who I was a huge fan of. I love Doctor
I
Who,
have
and
I have my TARDIS over there.
I saw it. I saw it. I
I
love
have a little TARDIS.
Peter, and I really hit it off. He's one of my favorite people. We still email, and yeah, because of that, I got to meet and work with these wonderful people. So now he's canon in the DC universe. And, if they did a second movie, you would probably see him. I would hope so. But if they don't do a second movie, he's still out there and could pop up, who knows where. And I would
Yeah.
love to be him, when that happens.
Yeah. As I always like to ask this as a follow-up, but because we're in the middle of the show still and it hasn't ended,
Yeah. Yeah.
what
Yeah.
I'll ask is we have seen throughout the last couple episodes them building this team. And in the last one, it kind of broke apart a little because Chris realized that everyone's keeping secrets.
Mhm.
But I really liked about your character is that he's like, I don't want to know, and
Yeah.
like was making noise so that he didn't ruin the team dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Fingers in the ears.
yeah, so in the last couple of episodes of this season, where can we expect to see this team and their growth as a unit?
Well, I think the way things ended in episode 6 is just a minor roadblock. It's a major roadblock. They framed him by putting a diary, in his house. But I mean, for the butterflies to be beaten, we can't do it as individuals. So, I mean, clearly we're going to pull things together. And I can't, I keep telling people, I can't wait for people to see episode 8. I don't know if they showed you advanced. Did you see advanced copies?
I have them. I have not watched because I watched the last one and I was like, wait, I kind of want to wait because I've been talking
Nice.
to my brother because him and I
Yeah.
are both DC nerds. And so we'll call each other, be like, what do you think is happening with the butterflies? And like
Yeah.
have theories. So I've been like waiting on them.
So they gave the press and everybody who they wanted to review the show,
Mhm.
they gave them the 7 out of the 8 episodes, but they couldn't give them episode 8 because there's such a huge amount of spoilers that like they couldn't take the chance on, they would know who they sent these episodes out to, but they were pretty confident that even, someone like yourself who might watch the episode 8 would just be like, I got to tell my brother, oh my God,
Yeah.
dude, you're not going to believe what happened. So they couldn't take that chance. And it is such a massive episode. And when I went in to record ADR for that episode a few months back, I was like, hey, after I recorded, I was like, hey, can you forward to the scene? I want to see, such and such a scene there. Absolutely not. And I go, I was there. It's not like it's a shocker to me. And they're like, yeah, but there's people on the call with us who don't know what happens, and we can't afford to. And I've never seen James more happy than when we were shooting some of the scenes in episode 8. So I I want it to last. I like that they're releasing them weekly, but I really, really want episode 8 to come out like right now.
Oh, I can't wait. Thank you so much for talking to me. I can't wait to see the rest of the season,
Yeah,
and I hope we get to see King Shark again because I love him
I
very
do too.
much.
You and me both. Thanks, Rachel.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.